Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into something really fascinating. It's a text that tries to connect two worlds you'd think are miles apart, ancient Buddhist mysteries and, get this, modern theoretical physics. The whole thing hinges on this one really bold question. What if science could actually explain ancient miracles?
All right, let's just jump right in. Before we even touch the physics part, we've got to set the stage. We need to look at these puzzles, these really profound mysteries that just demand some kind of explanation. We're talking about real-world stuff from Buddhist tradition that seems to totally fly in the face of what we know about biology and chemistry. And the text kicks things off with a case that is, wow, it's really compelling. I mean, we're not talking about mummification here or, any kind of preservation technique we know of. We're talking about a human body that has, completely on its own, resisted decay for over 1,000 years.
So this is Huineng. He was the sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism, and his body, which you can see at the Nanhua Temple, is still uncorrupted almost 1,300 years after he died. They say his skin is still elastic, and the incredible part? No artificial preservation. None. In Buddhist texts, they actually have a name for this, the diamond-like indestructible body.
Okay, so next up is another puzzle. It's about something called Sarira. Now, these are these tiny, colorful, almost crystal-like things that are sometimes found in the cremated ashes of, very advanced spiritual masters. Now, the common skeptical take? Oh, they're just kidney stones.
But the text points out some pretty big differences. For one, Sakarya are often super colorful, and you can find hundreds, sometimes thousands of them. And they come from masters who lived really long, healthy lives. Kidney stones? Well, they're linked to being sick and in pain, and they don't exactly come out of a cremation looking like little jewels.
And to make things even weirder, they apparently did a scientific analysis on one of these Sarira relics, and the results were, well, startling. It supposedly had the same kind of thermal conductivity and pressure resistance as a diamond. It could handle 2,000 tons of pressure without breaking. So what in the world are these things?
So okay, we've got these two big mysteries, right? Bodies that don't decay and these relics that are as hard as diamonds. They seem to defy any easy conventional explanation. So if biology and chemistry can't explain it, what's left? And this is where everything pivots. The text puts forward an answer that isn't just about faith. Instead, it turns to the most fundamental science we have for describing reality itself. It turns to physics.
I mean, that's a pretty bold move, right? The whole argument is that to even start to get a handle on these mysteries, you have to go way beyond biology. You have to look at the basic rules of reality itself. And that means bringing in the heavy hitters: quantum mechanics, Einstein's relativity, even string theory.
So, how does this whole framework even work? Well, the first step is to completely blow up our usual concept of reality, and it starts with just scale.
Think about it. We're talking about the unfathomable scale of the universe, 10 billion light years across, all the way down to the tiniest, infinitesimal scale of a single picometer. The universe is just so much bigger and so much smaller that our brains can really wrap around. And the point here is to kind of shake us out of this idea that our little human-sized view of the world is the only one that counts.
Let's use a classic analogy to really get this. Imagine an ant crawling on a huge sheet of paper. To that ant, the world is flat. It's two-dimensional. It has no concept of up or down. So here's the question. What if we, living in our 4 dimensions, 3 of space and 1 of time, are just like that ant? What if there are higher dimensions all around us that we just can't perceive?
And this is the core connection the text makes. These spiritual realms, like the Pure Lands in Buddhism, aren't just metaphors. The argument is that they are actual, real, different dimensional spaces. Places with their own unique sets of physical laws. Wild, right?
This whole line of thinking even gets connected to interpretations of Stephen Hawking's work. The idea that our entire reality might just be a projection, like a shadow cast from a higher dimensional space. And, this idea sounds a lot like that ancient Buddhist concept that our world is basically an illusion, a great dream.
Okay, so how does this new way of looking at things, this model of a multidimensional universe, bring us back to where we started? How does it explain those indestructible bodies and those crazy jewel-like relics?
Well, with this new lens, you can start to almost translate these spiritual ideas directly into the language of physics. So in this view, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they're not just wise teachers, they're higher dimensional beings. The Pure Land? Not a metaphor, but a real, physical place in another dimension. And even stuff like karma and the soul get a makeover.
Karma becomes a kind of force field of cause and effect, and the soul is seen as a complex of quantum information.
But wait a second. This brings up a huge problem, a huge objection. In the Buddhist scriptures, the distance to a place like the Amitabha Pure Land it's an insane number, trillions and trillions of light years away. So, how could anyone ever get there?
The answer the text proposes is pretty radical. It says you don't travel through space, you warp it. The idea is that our thoughts, our consciousness, isn't stuck with the speed limit of light. And we know from Einstein that space-time can be bent, it can be warped. So maybe, just maybe, a powerful, concentrated thought can actually fold space. You know, like folding a piece of paper to make two distant points touch. And boom, you've created an instant bridge between dimensions.
Okay, so if these higher dimensional beings exist, why don't they just pop in and solve all our problems? The analogy used here is really powerful. Think about it. If you're stuck in a nightmare, your parents can't jump into your dream to fight the monster for you, right? All they can do is try to wake you up. And in this view, that's the role of a Buddha. Not to save us inside the dream, but to help us awaken from it. So, after all this grand cosmic theory, what's the big takeaway? What does it all mean for us? Well, the text brings these huge ideas right back down to earth, and it's all about how we actually live our lives. So karma gets a total reframing. It's not some divine judgment. It's presented as a law of physics, just as fundamental as gravity. It's not about some god rewarding or punishing you. No, it's that every single action, every word, even every thought creates this energetic cause, a kind of force field that will, without fail, have an effect. It's what shapes the reality you experience moment to moment.
And within this whole framework, you've got different levels, different ways to engage with reality. You've got the Great Awakening, which is about totally transcending the whole cycle of rebirth, reaching the highest dimensions. Then there's the Medium Awakening. That's more about using good karma to get reborn in a better world. And finally, the Small Awakening, which is really about just being a good person, following moral codes, and making this current dream a better one for yourself and others.
But you see, the ultimate message here isn't that life is meaningless. Not at all. It's really a call to action. Because if we are the ones creating our own dream through the power of our intentions and our actions, well then the responsibility's on us, isn't it? It's on us to make it a good dream and not a nightmare.
So this whole synthesis of physics and spirituality, it's a pretty radical attempt to build a bridge, right, between two very different ways of seeing the world. And it leaves us with this one, final, really provocative question to think about. If modern physics is telling us that our reality is just energy waves and that higher dimensions are mathematically possible, where does science actually end and faith begin?